You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast with me, Maxwell Brown, and I today am joined by Ross Legg. How are you, Ross?
I am great, thank you, Max. The IPL hat is back. The Redstone Royals hat is back because it's IPL almost season. It's the retention deadline tomorrow, and we're very excited, aren't we?
Well, there's always something going on with the IPL, so we've managed to shoehorn some IPL action in today. We'll be talking about the retentions as the deadline is tomorrow as we're talking on the 30th of November, and there's also some Test match action to go over as well, isn't there? With India, New Zealand, the highlight, and then some starters and entree courses of Pakistan, Bangladesh, and West Indies, Sri Lanka. But before we get into that, Ross, would you mind telling the listeners what the messages are?
Yeah, if you're watching this video on YouTube, you should like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've now gone over the 8,800 mark, so go on there and get us through 10,000 subscribers. We get nothing for it, but it's like cricket, right? If you were on 98 or you're on 88 in this example, when you want to get to 100, like it's only 12 runs, but actually the 100 to you is a big milestone. So 10,000 subscribers to us is a big milestone. So help us get there. Follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and then also if you want to contribute to the show or have access to IPL data, and then go to Patreon/the Cricket Pod, and you can sign up there and get a nice IDLCC hat. You can have a conversation with Max. You can have a virtual dinner with Jack, or all kinds of different things that can be set up.
What are you offering, Ross?
Me, I'm just nice to look at, Max, with this wonderful moustache.
Yeah, the eye candy.
I'm the eye candy, yeah. So that's what you got to do. Oh, and we're sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. Use code TCP25 for 25% off.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, approaching the 10,000 on YouTube. It feels like one of those sort of nervous 90s things. You know, we've been sort of in the high 80s for a while, trying to kick on, but just getting bogged down. Be nice if we could get a little rush that would get us there with a 6.
Yeah. There's a couple of tricky spinners on at the moment.
Well,
get them away.
Speaking of tricky spinners, shall we head over and talk about the first test between India and New Zealand in Kanpur?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, I've got a little summary for you, so
I'll sit back and relax.
take you on a journey of how that test went. I think I don't know what you thought, Ross, but I think it was a pleasant surprise for all of us, given the notable absentees from both sides, and with those selection issues. I think some people might have expected it to be sort of more like a gentle ride on a merry-go-round, but what we actually got really was a fully fledged roller coaster ride. And as Rahane won the toss in Kohli's absence, and India batted first, and they sort of built steadily up towards the heights of a strong first innings total. The roller coaster threatened to dip a bit at 145 for 4, but Shreyas Iyer's debut century ensured India kept on climbing. But like all good roller coasters, the climb precipitated a pretty sharp fall, and India's team screeched into a steep descent, whirling round bend after bend as batsmen fell, and it was only Ravi Ashwin in that sort of lower order who was able to keep his nerve and pull a cool face for the on-ride photo. But first innings of 345 was it? and I think it was all right. I think it probably could have been better from where they were. On New Zealand's turn, they had a go at the same roller coaster, although they somehow managed to get to the top a bit faster than India did, with an opening stand of 151, at which point they were looking quite dominant. But with India potentially staring down the barrel of a first innings deficit, the drop was again very sharp, and the Kiwi thrill seekers experienced their own sharp descent on the Axar Patel free fall, which is newly opened in India. Another 5 for him in his budding Test career. Things are coming up Axar, it seems. India got bored of roller coasters at that point and decided to go on the swinging ship. So on the highs of their lead, first innings lead, they then lurched back to 51 for 5. And then the Kiwis looked like they might be in for an unlikely victory, but Iyer swung them back in command before Southey swung the ball and the game back into question until Riddleman Saha and Ashwin swung the door shut on a New Zealand win, which left New Zealand with one last spooky day to endure in the haunted house. And after losing a wicket late on day 4, the first half of the day had no real scares at all, and they got to lunch in some comfort, but clearly lulled into a full sense of security. The scares came thick and fast, and Ravi Jadeja was chief tormentor as New Zealand quivered their way from 115 to 3 to 155 for 9. But ironically, it was India at the end who were scared of the dark, as it took away the key 11 minutes of play that they maybe needed to get the last wicket and win the game. So, pretty good game of cricket that, by all accounts, Ross. Test cricket, another feather in the cap.
I mean, what a summary first and foremost. I mean, if it was appropriate to applaud on a podcast, I would blow some people's speakers out. So I won't applaud you, Bex, but. Nice job. Jazz hands for the other listeners. I thought it was one of those test matches which, as you say, was going either which way, and there were some good performances, right? And this was a second/third team for India being put out here, and New Zealand were playing probably their second team, maybe their A team, just about. And actually, it was quite an even contest on what was a pretty flat pitch. But I'd much rather have a flatter pitch that gets us to within one wicket, within one ball on the last day, than people going home after 2.5. So there's a little bit of balance in the way. And I thought actually they did a good job. Rahul Dravid is apparently given a tip of, I don't know how much money, to the groundsman, which is that a thing that's done?
It's the first time I've ever seen it be done, but I like it.
If he would have won,
it's reward the groundsman with a bit of carrot.
But if India won and he gave them that money, would that have been?
That just looks like dodgy bribery,
doesn't it? But that was because it was a draw. It was fine. Yeah. But let's not go down that route of what dodgy practices there are. Let's start at the top, shall we? Because you mentioned that India put themselves into a really good position early on, right? They were 266 for 4 of about 86 overs. I mean, that's pretty good going. All of their batsmen, other than Agarwal, kind of had starts. I mean, you had Pujara and Rahane got starts. Gill got 50 and then couldn't kick on. And then it was Iyer on debut. Virat Kohli 2.0, as he's being dubbed across Twitter. Not sure how relevant or accurate that is, but he couldn't have asked for a better start, right? 105 and 65 in this match.
Man of the match.
Yeah, it was from a batting perspective at that point. They must have been going, do you know what? This is going well. We've not got our best test match batsman, regardless of if he's hit a century or not in the last 2 years. And Iyer was really stepping up, wasn't he?
Yeah, very impressive. I think I think questions potentially asked about whether he's actually the next big thing for India. But I mean, to go into your debut and score 150 in the 2 innings, which I think he might be the first Indian batsman to have done on debut. There's no better way to announce yourself. And things did look a little dodgy for New Zealand at that point, because Southey had gone off the field as well after 14 overs or so, and you were looking a little bit like India, 200 odd for 4, one bowler down, spinners who can't turn the ball. Even in India, and it was looking a bit dicey. So Tim Southey coming back for them he got Shreyas Iyer and Jadeja, didn't he, when he returned? There
was a change in ball, wasn't it? There was a change in ball, and like so often happens, right, where big passages of play go, even an old ball from a box comes in and swung the game, right? It was the first roller coaster, really, because he went on a bit of a mad one, Southey. I don't know what he did when he went off the pitch. Like I always kind of wonder that. Do they go and have a little sleep? Do they go and have like a massage? Like what is the bit that you're doing when you're in India? Or are you just kind of sitting there taking on fluids? I don't know. But whatever elixir he was on, returning figures of 5 for 69 in the first innings of a test match in India is pretty bloody good going.
Yeah, and especially when a lot of that was done with, it wasn't with the new ball, was it?
Mm.
Like you get maybe 8 overs of juice out of it, and then it's over to the spinners. So I think both Jameson and Saudi really, I think you have to take your hat off to them in both, the first and the second innings really, of how dangerous they managed to remain throughout the game on, like you said, it was a reasonably flat pitch. Conditions in India never tend to favour the seamers too much anyway. So you got
You're
to
doing
say,
the hard yards, aren't you? Really, if you come
Yeah.
away if you come away as a pacer with 3 wickets, you're going, that's a bloody good effort.
Yeah, they've done a cracking job on that front, and that performance from Saudi was pretty magnificent and instrumental in New Zealand being able to tie the game in the end. But what that does do is kind of cover the deficiencies and the other side of the bowling department. If you go over to India and take 17 wickets and only 3 of them are by one of your 3 spinners.
It's not great, is it? I mean, there was
17. 2 of whom took no wickets at all.
Well, it was the fact that India spinners, so the spin trio of Axar Patel, Jadeja, and Ashwin, they took 17 wickets between them in the match, right? Axar got a first innings fifer, as you mentioned. Ashwin 3 in both innings, and then Jadeja really turned the screw today, but just couldn't get that 5th wicket. Why do you think that is, right? So I think Kane Williamson came out and said that these guys have been in lockdown, they've not done much stuff, they've been in bubbles, blah blah blah. Is that a good enough reason, or is just the level of talent just not quite there? And then on the other side, is it just that the Indian batsmen they are adept at playing this kind of stuff, right? They're adept at playing spin on these kind of tracks, and actually that muscle memory from, say, Shreyas Iyer just kind of kicks in, and Will Somerville's never going to stand a chance of doing anything too special.
Yeah, some 37-year-old backwater off spinner.
He's a good job. He's actually a qualified accountant, I think. You know how I joked that Santa looked like an accountant. I think Somerville's actually a
shame he couldn't account for any wickets, but
very well done. Very well done.
I mean, there's obviously
you are.
Yeah, it's all right. It's obviously never one thing, isn't it? There's never one simple explanation. But I think there's you can have some sympathy for these guys of being a bubble, and they won't have played a lot of cricket recently. What with all the T20 shenanigans going on and that kind of thing. India are really good at playing spin, so that's good. You're up against it there if you're not necessarily elite level spinner playing against those sorts of players. But I mean, structurally, it's got to be something going on in New Zealand cricket as well. I mean, I'm not an expert on New Zealand cricket by any means, but I did read Ian Smith saying that he thinks they really need to sort things out, because it's just far too heavily loaded towards the seamers. Sort of when they play at home, they get people over to New Zealand and batter them with their seam attack, and it leaves no room for the spinners to develop. And it's a similar sort of thing to what you get in this country, except we're playing on green tops in April, and all you want to do is bowl at 70 miles an hour like Darren Stevens and take a hatful of wickets, and doesn't leave any room for you to develop a spinner. And I think New Zealand probably suffer from a similar sort of problem, and it takes like a once in a generation talent like Graham Swan to come out of the woodwork, and
Daniel Vettori, right?
Exactly, and once those guys go, the flashes in the pan, you're left scrabbling around for however many years it is.
We also had
just blessed with having a bunch of really good pace bowlers.
Yeah, we don't forget that England also had life coach promoter Monty Panesar as well for a little bit.
Well, let's not talk about Monty Panesar at the moment.
What an absolute muppet. Anyway, let's talk about New Zealand, right? So New Zealand, batting wise, actually I thought they did well, right? They didn't, as you said, they got themselves into a good position. I think they were nearly about 200 for 2 when Kane Williamson got out. And then they did what India did, right? They lost a load of wickets for not too many runs. They both lost quite a few wickets for less than 100. But what they did do was bat time. And this is what this New Zealand team is good at doing, right? We saw them when they played against England earlier this year, saw them in the World Test Championship. They are able to just demonstrate that consistent technical ability and that mental application to actually do very well in these kind of situations. I was again impressed by them, and I don't know why I continue to feel impressed by the number one test team in the world. But some of the way in which they play it, they seem to be playing the percentages right. They seem to be going, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to trust my eyes here. I'm not going to get too worried about the pitch. Yes, they're not playing at Ahmedabad, but there is a bit around when you do have three high quality spinners coming up against you. And let's not forget, look, Umesh Yadav and Ishant Sharma are no mugs with the ball either, right? That's a decent bowling lineup they're coming up against. But I thought, again, they did something that England failed to do miserably in earlier this year.
Yeah, well, they battled, didn't they? I mean, if you look at like that first innings in particular, the tail, you wouldn't say the tail wagged, because Saudi scored 5, Somerville scored 6, and Axar Patel scored 5. But Will Somerville was there for 52 deliveries, and Carl Jameson scored 23 off 75. And like you said, taking time out of the game. If you're not scoring runs, at least be kind of a nuisance. And those like 5 overs or so, and at the end of that innings, ultimately in the context of the game, is one of the reasons that New Zealand were able to hang on at the end, because they just dug in a bit, and that's sort of symbolic of this New Zealand side, isn't it? They're you always, it's a bit of a cliche, but that's what happens when they keep proving it. They're a gritty side, and you have to admire the way they approach the game.
As one of the old boys used to say at my cricket club when I was a kid, you can't hit runs back in the pavilion. And I think these guys really do take it to that level, right? Of being like, I'm just going to stay here for ages. There was this game wasn't without its controversy, though, Max.
No.
In India's second innings, they put up a pretty handy total. I think their declaration probably came a little bit too soon. I think some people have talked around how the shift in leadership to Rahul Dravid. I mean, Rahane was captain today rather than Virat Kohli. Maybe kind of a more conservative captain, and maybe a more conservative style of leadership from Rahul Dravid. We don't know, right? But actually here, they wanted to make sure that they couldn't lose this test match. And maybe it was that batting for an extra 45 minutes that actually did it for them. However, they got off to the perfect start after that, where Will Young, the evergreen opening batsman that he is, was given out. Oh, well, he was given out. And
He's given out.
Yeah, and then you got 15 seconds. It was DRS controversy. He was given out, and then there was 15 seconds to review it. After 10 seconds, the umpire is supposed to tell you, you've got 10 seconds, you need to make a decision. That supposedly didn't happen.
Right.
And then obviously Will Young goes, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to review it after thinking about it, because he's, calm, considered young Kiwi. The ball from Ashwin, well, yeah, they then said, oh, you can't do this anymore. So it was given out. He had to trudge off, and then it showed it on the big screen that it was missing the stumps.
So far down the leg side, wasn't even close.
I don't know why he took one. Don't know why it took so long to do it. But two, interesting again, like this, the basics of umpiring is coming into the kind of the rhetoric. I'm not sure if it's completely fair, but here, I mean, that's pretty basic. Like you've got to tell the batsman, right? You've got this chance. He's not looking at the big screen.
Didn't look right.
No,
like even in real time, like giving that is, I'm surprised it got given. Because the ball took a ridiculous trajectory off the pitch. Like it didn't bounce, and it's turned so sharply. It's just like, and it was straight up with the finger. It was an interesting call. But I'm also surprised that Latham at the other end didn't just be like, well, no, you got to review that immediately. I
don't know why they wouldn't do it.
I don't know why they took so long. I mean, you can say you can have some sympathy with not getting the warning, but also a human being is probably fairly competent at being able to count to 15. So I'd sort of would be more like, just review it, do your job at the non-striker's end, and stay there.
That's the camp I'm in, actually, Max. No, normally I'll do anything to jump on kind of the umpire bashing bandwagon. But on this occasion, you are the batsman, right? And I mean, plenty of batsmen. Let's read Shane Watson, Johnny Bairstow get pelters for using the LBW system or using the DRS system for LBWs. But here, just use, that's what it's there for. It's there for shockers. It wasn't quite a shocker, but it was pretty bad in the end. But never mind. The Kiwis being the Kiwis, they just got on with it, didn't they? They were a little bit annoyed, and then it was like, do you know what? Let's use that as motivation to ruin India's Test match. It's kind of the way I'm, the narrative that I'm going for here, Max.
Yeah, well, we also got to see another argument in favour of the night watchman debate. Obviously, Jack absolutely despises the concept of using a night watchman. Thinks it's a total waste of time. But yeah, worked a treat here, didn't it? He was there until lunch the next day.
Well, I think just sometimes it comes off, right? It's percentage wise. That's what, when Jack would always turn around and say, "Oh, we only like maybe got 6% chance of winning." Well, actually, that 6% is going to happen every now and again, and it seemed to happen here. But it also helps when your team can actually bat. Like, it's the bit where you send out Jimmy Anderson as a night watchman. Like, it's not.
But also,
really...
it's more about. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't send out Jimmy Anderson as night watchman, would you?
England used to.
Well, I suppose we used to.
England used to send it out.
It's more like Don Bess or Jack Leach now, isn't it? But I think the sort of the thing with the night watchman is because if they do end up being there in the morning, they're then just wasting balls that they could be scoring runs off because they don't have the ability to score the runs that someone who is an opening batsman or 3 or 4
Jack Leach
might be able to do. But Will Somerville did actually score some runs, even in a game where they were probably playing out for the draw. He still scored as high a rate as the Latham and quicker than Williamson when he came in, and by lunch there was still an outside chance of New Zealand winning. So I think it kind of paid off all right in this instance. But it's you do, even if it does work, like, and you see the evening out, you are then left in a sort of weird situation where you've got someone batting that you don't really want to be batting at this current point in the game.
Well, all the Jack Leach stands out there are going to be saying, well, Jack Leach got 91 against Ireland.
He did. He got dropped about 5 times.
But it was, as you said, it did tee up a very dramatic kind of final bit. Like, there was wickets falling. Kane Williamson played particularly well. They were getting ever so closer, but it always felt like Jadeja or Ashwin were going to pick up that all conquering, all critical wicket right at the end. But Rachin Ravinder on debut, batting 91 balls on the last day on a day 5 pitch in India. It wasn't as bad as some day 5 pitches could possibly be, but take a bow, young man. That what an absolute treat that was for Test cricket lovers. A rearguard action like that is brilliant to watch, and for someone coming in playing their first Test match, that is one of those, what dreams are made of.
It's one of those finishes to a game that only real cricket fans will find exciting, isn't it? You try and explain to someone who's new to cricket, who's maybe, just watched the 100 for the first time. It's like, oh yeah, this cricket thing's good, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, come on, go and watch the last hour of this game. They're like, what the fuck's going on here?
Two completely different sports. The rules are all completely different.
Yeah,
and the satisfaction is also different, right? But it's like that bit. Like sometimes,
it's the satisfaction of ruining someone else's day better than the satisfaction of making your own day. Sometimes it is, isn't it?
Sometimes it definitely is. I mean, I'm definitely from that school of thought. Definitely. What it did mean is that India did fail to win, which I don't think is actually it's not that bad. Like, New Zealand are a really good Test side. India were playing their third team here. Yes, they had some of their first line spinners, but this is still one of those games where you can turn around and say, do you know what? It's actually not that bad to go away with a draw. I think it's a good result for New Zealand, but it's still an okay result for India. Rahane, vice captain. He's been under a lot of pressure since January last year, after the Australia. After he won in Australia, but since then he's not really been able to buy a run really, and obviously being the vice captain of this side, he was stepping up for Kohli today, or this last Test match, but the Wolves are at the door and Rahane is dressed in a sheep costume. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I think you think it's all she wrote, do you?
Kohli in, Rahane out.
All
for
right,
the next test.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Well, how'd you drop Shreyas Iyer, right? How'd you drop him?
Absolutely. You can't.
You can't drop
literally can't.
Pujara. You can't drop Pujara at 3. Pujara's hit, I think, the most test half centuries this year. Not saying that's a massive anecdote or a massive accolade, sorry, but it's still better than what Rahane's managed, right?
Yeah. No one in that middle order. Should be replaced apart from Rahane this game. I think that's it. There was a bit of criticism as well from for him not taking the new ball at the end as well. They bowled with the old ball for 4 overs, and arguably that contributed to them not being able to take a wicket at the end as well. I don't know. What did you make of that? Did you think it was a strange call?
Yeah, I kind of always, when the new ball's available, unless the ball is reverse swinging, I'm always of the opinion of just take the new ball. Like there's not too many occasions when you're sitting there going, do you know what? And you've played with old cricket balls, right? You've played in like cricket nets. You've played in games where the ball is absolutely shit, and it's not bouncing. And actually, the chance of one actually grubbing and keeping low might be a little bit higher on a day 5 pitch. I get that, but actually, there's more opportunity for the ball to go to hand, and not too many balls to do that. Right? There are people around the bat. I think they have like 2 or 3 chances in the game. You're only going to get those opportunities really if you're floating it up or you've got a bit of a harder ball that might do something. Yeah. And I kind of just think
we've seen how dangerous Axar Patel is with the new ball that hits the, kisses the lacquer and skids on. Exactly. Pretty much unplayable.
Exactly. And I just, I think it was an opportunity missed on that one. And I think they'll look back at the declaration. I think they'll look back on not using the new ball sooner. And that's the beauty of Test cricket, right? It lasts for 5 days, and yet a couple of overs here and there can determine what happens. And that's why we absolutely love it. And that's why we've spent the last half an hour talking about this when we thought we were going to only do a 20-minute show. But that's
what we
life.
Do, though. That's just us.
Yeah. That is just us. So I think it was, as I said, a good result for New Zealand. I think it's an okay result for India.
It's not the end of the world.
I also think that New Zealand now are going to kind of go to the Wankhede and be like with their tails up. I think this is one of those confidence boosting kind of things. Do you know what, lads? We did this, and I think we're in for a really good second Test match. And it just comes down to again of why are they not playing more Test matches?
Yeah,
at least play 3. At least play. What is the point in a 2-gamer? Like, I know it's now going to a decider, but fucking come on! Like it should be a minimum 3. You got 2. You literally have 1 and 2, the best 2 Test playing nations, and they're playing 2 games. Pathetic.
Yeah, especially when there were 3 pointless T20s in the lead up to it. But yeah, we've been there.
Very annoying. Should we quickly talk about the other Test matches, and then we can cut the show in half, so we can do the IPL retentions in the second half.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's go over to Bangladesh. Then, so Pakistan are in complete control. Bangladesh have put up a bit of a fight, as they typically do on their own soil. Lytton Das with a maiden century, so well done him. The World Cup semi-final scapegoat in Hassan Ali took a fifer in that first innings, which is kind of nice to see. The redemption is well on its way. But again, it just seemed like they were a little bit of a class above. Even when Bangladesh were ahead, I think they recorded a 44-run lead. Abid Ali hit 133. And one of Bangladesh bowlers took 7 for Taijul Islam. And when someone takes 7 for,
what a day.
You're going hello. He did go for 116 runs, and he did bowl 44.5 overs. But taking 7 wickets, you're very proud of that effort, aren't you?
Well, absolutely.
You're getting all the pictures with the ball in the hand, just like
Yeah, how many people can turn around and say they've taken a 7 for in Test cricket? That's doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the runs column says. The 7 is all that matters in that case. But Pakistan had a touch of the New Zealand's about them, didn't they? In that game, they were 146 the opening stand for them, and then they fell to 286 all out. So they'll be ruining an opportunity there from Abid Ali scoring nearly half their runs at the top of the order.
It happens, right? It happens in the subcontinent. Actually, it's really, or anywhere really. Sometimes it is difficult to get going, right? When you come up against kind of spinners that suit their conditions, it is difficult to kind of get going. We know that some of the Pakistan batsmen are very adept at playing spin. However, on some occasions, sometimes the bowlers just get the better of you. A 44-run lead, as I said. Actually, sometimes that's tricky. If England are in that position, they're 44 runs behind against Bangladesh, they're starting to worry a little bit. Australia, New Zealand have both faltered there in recent times. But the man, the myth, and the legend that is Shaheen Shah Afridi.
Oh, he's no myth.
He's very much real, and the top order of Bangladesh certainly know about it.
They got Shaheen.
He ripped out the top order. I think he concussed somebody who tried to bat on and then realised, you know what, it's just not worth it. And then they got bundled out. I think there was a bit of resistance. Listen, Das again hitting some runs, but they were bundled out for 157. So their tough work in the first innings of hitting 330 kind of undone a little bit here, and set a target of 202. Which they're still going to have to defend, but as with the first innings, they've got off to a flyer, haven't they, Max?
109 for no wicket. It's game over, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, surely that
they'll be pretty spectacular.
And that's not past Pakistan. Let's be honest.
No.
Let's not be honest. But I think that one's definitely going to be a Pakistan victory. We can go over to Sri Lanka next, Max. Have you got
very
any?
Quickly. Yeah,
you got very, very quickly. So it's been day one, hasn't it?
Well, I thought we'd talk about the one that actually finished, but
we could talk about Pakistan a little bit more if you want.
No, I mean the first test.
The first test. Well, again, it was just the fact that when you've got West Indies, who have got a pretty inexperienced test side, let's be honest, don't have elite level spinners, don't have really good. I mean, Roston Chase is currently their best off break bowler, and if you're not playing against England, then he's not really that good.
Took a fifer.
Great. Lemonland takes loads of wickets and he'd get carted everywhere else in the world, right? Yeah. And that's the thing. What did you say when we came on? It's just like, Ross, I don't particularly want to talk about the game that's being played in a sandpit. And it's a little bit challenging, right? When you're trying to be like, come on. Karuna Ratner hit a century in the first game. I think he hit an 80 odd as well. Like, he's having a very impressive 2021. He added 42 to his score today, and then Roston Chase took his wicket, caught and bowled. When I read that on ESPN, because it's not being showed in the UK, which I don't know what the reason is when you're not looking at the 7th and 8th best test teams in the world, not kind of dunking it out. Should it not be bowled and caught? I've always thought this, and I thought you'd be the one to ask rather than anyone else. Like caught and bowled, right? Because bowled happen. You bowl it first, don't you?
Oh no, because in the scorecard it goes down: caught, fielder's name, bowled, bowler's name. So you just go caught and bowled by the bowler.
Yeah. Just to me, I was just like,
it's just a contraction, isn't it? Rather than going caught Roston Chase, bowled Roston Chase.
Yeah, I thought you might like that. You're kind of one for a little bit of and then, as you say, you put it so eloquently of Ross, stop being an idiot.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But the rest of the game, like, they're 113 for one. I think again, it just shows you the lack of penetration that this West Indies have. And I think when it comes to showing a bit of fight, Bonner did it in the last game. He faced 220 balls. De Silva faced 129 balls. They still got beaten by 187 runs, Max. Yeah. So it's a small thing to cling on to. But Lemonland and co are just a bit too good, right? The spinners in Sri Lanka, they know how to attack. They've got good plans. They are set up to not only take wickets but also stifle at the other end. They are a good enough home side, and I think that the West Indies aren't coming away from this going, "Oh, there's a real opportunity miss." It's a learning lesson, right, for them.
Yeah, I think it's all very well having someone see out 220 balls and someone else see out 129, but when the guys in between you see out a total of 22 balls, you're pretty stuffed, aren't you? Yeah,
it's not ideal.
It's not what you want.
No. So I think this game, I hope it turns into a classic. I really hope it does. But I'm going to struggle to see how Sri Lanka don't win it, if I'm perfectly honest. Like, unless West Indies turn up tomorrow and Roston Chase has another day out, I'm going to be very surprised. They also dropped Rakeem Cornwall, which is always devastating for us because we quite like Rakeem Cornwall. But never mind. So, Max, anything else to add on Test cricket before we move on to the IPL?
No, well, I'm just the more Test cricket happens, the more excited I am for the Ashes in a week and a bit's time. It's going to be painful, but it'll be good pain.
Yeah,
maybe.
we will be doing daily shows. We're planning on waking up early, going through it. We'll be watching some of the cricket anyway, watching the highlights, and then reporting back on a daily basis. So you going to work or you waking up and chilling out, we'll have you covered. So subscribe to our channel, like our video, and follow us at the Cricket Pod. And we'll be very much all over that. So thank you for listening. And for those of you on YouTube, we are going to do a new video, which will be released later on. And for those of you on the podcast, stay with us.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.